Hello, hello, hello. So, thank you so much for attending this HelpNet webinar titled So That School Year Happened, Self-Care Support Summer. So today we're going to talk about how to best get support this summer, as so many of you educators have had a wild year doing remarkable work supporting our students and their families during a global never-ending crisis. So we really want to this webinar today is really our gratitude to all of you, our thank you to all of you, and our way of trying to extend our support to you for all the magnificent the work you do for our kids and our families and our communities. So we are humbled and we are excited to support you in whatever way we can. So we're going to take a moment today to just breathe. So the last year and a half or more has been a wild ride through a never-ending global crisis. And our bodies are tired, our minds are tired, and our spirits are tired. So I invite you to just take a moment, soften your jaw, relax your eyes, rest your body, roll your shoulders, and get comfortable in whatever seat you're sitting in. Stretch maybe, and just take a deep breath. You did it. If you are not teaching summer school, you are hopefully embarking on a little bit of a break. And if you are teaching summer school, I still hope you find a little bit of a break in whatever way you're tied to education this summer. So today we're going to talk about emotional and empathetic exhaustion. And we're going to really dig into how to get the kind of emotional and structural support that we need to improve the quality of our lives. And I'm going to take you through a little bit of an exercise called a support map so that we can really find what we need from the people in our world. So this is what they call a selfie of me. I'm kidding. But this is how I would say a visual representation of how a lot of folks feel here as we kind of move through a year and a half of a global pandemic. So if you are listening or you can't see your screen, it is a wet dog who looks pretty frazzled. And I can say I can relate to him saying, oh, me, I'm fine. Again, in this culture, we have not a lot of permission to tell the truth about how we're doing. So we're always doing fine and we're always doing good. But maybe we're not. Maybe we're struggling a little bit, or maybe we are fine and we just look frazzled. So one of the things that I work in healthcare, I work here at Bronson Healthcare Group, and HelpNet is part of Bronson Healthcare Group. And so one of the things I think healthcare workers and educators have in common, or those who work in schools, is kind of this compulsive need to put others first. And one of the leading researchers on this, Gabor Mate, he talks about how this compulsive and automatic concern for the need of others while ignoring your own is a major risk factor for chronic illness. So not only does it put you at greater risk for mental illness or mental challenges or mental pain, emotional exhaustion, but it really impacts our physical bodies. And so being able to identify our needs and take care of ourselves is essential to our overall health and well-being. So what happens when we're on an empty tank, when we have exhaustion, when we've given all we've got? As you can see, there's an angry cat. So you might have guessed at this point in the presentation that that I like animals. And so if you've attended any of my presentations before, I do in fact have a lot of pets, and I do like animals. So one of the things that happens when we are emotionally exhausted and we have compassion fatigue or empathy fatigue is that we move into resentment. We find ourselves being highly critical of ourselves and others. We get frustrated easily. We move into negativity and pessimism. we're exhausted, not just emotionally exhausted, but like I said, spiritually exhausted and physically exhausted. We get defensive, reactive, and we're irritable. And these are all clues. These aren't things to get mad at yourself for. These are all clues that I'm exhausted and I'm working on an empty tank. So these should be clues to you that you need support. You need different kinds of support, but you need support, that you can't go it alone anymore. You've reached a point where you are on empty. And so how do we do that? How do we actually get the support we need? Well, we're going to talk about an activity related to support. And we're going to use this quote. I've never actually seen the show that this references, but I found this quote and I thought it was really, really powerful. It talks about how people tell you who they are, but we ignore it because we want them to be who we want them to be. And so we're really going to find out, we're going to examine our social support and find out who are the people in our world that actually support us and how can we get what we need from them. So is this activity right for you? Some of the questions you can ask yourself: do you find that you ask for support, get ignored, avoided, or minimized? Do you notice that most people in your circle like your posts? And I know for some people, social media isn't a big deal, but for some people, social media is a big deal. And so I want to value different perspectives. Or they fail to acknowledge you in real life over text message, over messenger, over email. So really, are you getting responses? Do you often feel invisible, ignored, rejected, or lonely? So if you ever feel any of these things, which I would say most of us do, just normalizing that, we need to really reassess our social support system. So I want you to think about this question. Have there been times when it was hard for you to accept or trust love, compassion, or support from another person? And I'm going to ask you another question to consider. What do those words mean to you? And what does it look like for you when someone accepts you, when you trust someone, when you love someone, when you have compassion, or when someone has compassion for you? Or what does support look like? So we have these big words, and I want us to pull them down from the rafters. I want us to think about, what do they look like in practice? How do I know someone loves me? How do I know that someone has compassion or supports me? I apologize, I'm having a little bit of a connection, but it shouldn't interfere with our recording. How do I know that I'm being supported by another person? What do those words mean, and what do they look like for you in practice? Because we don't all have an agreed upon definition of what these words mean. And so when you say you're not supporting me, I don't always know what you mean. So the idea today is we are going to eliminate our addiction to rejection. We are going to stop knocking on locked doors, and we are going to find what support we need in this world. So I ask you, this is what we call love languages. So what types of support do you need? Do you like words of affirmation? There is no right or wrong answer here, as I want to say that as well. Do you like words of affirmation? Do you like when people see you and say, you know, you did a great job? That was really great, or I'm proud of you. That there's nothing wrong with needing that, and humans need words of affirmation. Do you like acts of service, when someone does something for you, a task, picks up the house, helps you around the classroom, helps you at work? Do you like gifts, trinkets, flowers, jewelry? Do you like when someone buys you something big or small, and just how does that feel for you? Do you like quality time with people? Do you like having one-to-one or small group meetings where you get really some time for empathy, understanding, and connection? Do you like physical touch? Do you like when your partner or your kids hug, snuggle, cuddle you? Why I bring these up is that we don't all want the same things. So for me, at work, I prefer words of affirmation. At home, I prefer acts of service. And so what are some of those for you? Again, mine aren't right. They're just knowing myself and what works for me. And so what is a support map? Who actually supports you, not who you wish supported you. So this is the key question. We often have people in our world that we wish were different than they were. So we have a friend that isn't quite empathetic, but we keep going to them anyway. We have a family member, a parent, a sibling who doesn't give us what they need, but they're my mom and they're my sister, they're my cousin, and they should just know. They should just know. And the fact is they don't, and they might not be able to. And that doesn't mean your needs are wrong. But we keep going to the same friends, to the same people, to the same parents over and over and over again, and not getting what we need, instead of believing that this person can't give us what they need. This doesn't mean our needs are not valid. Some people are not capable of meeting us where we are, and that doesn't mean there's something wrong with them or there's something wrong with us. So I want you to think for a minute, who actually supports you, who responds to your emails, who responds to your text message, who has empathy for you, who helps you with tasks, who actually supports you, not who you wish would, not who should just know, but who actually supports you. And I want you to create a list of all the people in your world. So these are the people who, anyone you have contact with, just anyone in your world that supports you. And this could be the people who you do text and don't respond, but who in your world, just a list of the people you text, the people you call, the people you reach out to, who in your world supports you. All of them. You're welcome to pause the video at this point to create that list. So the support map. In list 1, I want you to put the people who actually support your emotional needs, who answer the call, who respond with empathy and understanding. List 2, people who actually support your acts of service. So they might not be empathetic or understanding, but they'll move your couch, or they'll help fix your car, or they'll help fix a leak. List 3, people who you have fun with, people who you laugh with, people who bring you joy. So they might not be the empathetic friend or the empathetic family member. They might not help you move your couch, but you know what? I get a lot of joy being around them. We have the same taste in movies, or we have kids who really get along. We have family members who really get along. And these people are a real joy, a real hoot. In list 4, people who give me little to no support. This is a private list. You do not, and I encourage you not to share this list with anyone. And list 4 is usually the longest list. So typically list 1 has 1 or 2 people, list 2 has 1 or 2 people, list 3 has a few people, list 4 tends to be a longer list. And this isn't because people are bad. This has to do with time, capacity, understanding, a lot of those things. So I'm pausing the video at this point to give yourself a chance to walk through this activity. It's typical if this activity brings up some feelings of awareness or insight or emotion. So here's the work as well. Where are the gaps? So if you find, okay, I don't really have a lot of emotional support. I don't really know if I have someone I can call that gives me empathy. This is where you can reach out to a HelpNet clinician and fill that gap while you build that support. What if I don't have someone that helps me around the house or acts of service? This is where maybe you reach out to someone, and if you have the financial ability to hire someone to help you around the house, which is a valid support need, you understand that, okay, maybe I need to reach out or find out who can actually help me with my acts of service, with my tasks. Who are people I have fun with? When is the last time I had fun? What is the last time I laughed? When is the last time I had real joy? And who in my life can fill that gap? How do I get these gaps filled? It's common for people to have gaps on this list. And then who's on that 4th list? Who can stay perfectly in my life, But I won't be reaching out to them with the same way I was before, trying to get my needs met, because they aren't the person to fill them. No fault of mine, no fault of their own. I'm not going to show them the list, but they aren't the person for me in this space anymore. And so I won't be reaching out to them for empathy, understanding, moving my couch, or for joy. But they can stay in my life as they are, where they are. And so where can you draw boundaries around people who might be putting you on their list and you don't have the emotional capacity for that? So if you're the kind of person who is empathetic and understanding, you might be on a lot of people's lists, and that might be exhausting for you. If you have a pickup truck, as someone said when I've done this presentation before, you might be on a lot of acts of service list. And just because you have these capabilities and capacities doesn't mean you have to be on everybody's lists. So it's important to recognize that you can say no, and you can be on someone's list for, and that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That we all have one or two people on each of these lists, and that's wonderfully, perfectly fine. If we don't have one or two people, filling out how we can get those one or two people, but really looking at the ways in which maybe we're overextending ourselves on other people's lists. So where can we prioritize the people in our world? Like, I want to be an emotional support for my sister, but I can't be an emotional support for everybody on my work team. So really understanding where I'm overextending myself on other people's lists. And just some fundamentals for support over the summer or as you move into the next school year, making sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're eating foods that feel nourishing and supportive, that you're getting adequate sleep, you're taking time to breathe, you're making sure you get enough water and stay hydrated throughout the day, that you're connecting with people, that you're getting some movement, you're stretching, you're moving your body in ways that feel good, you're spending some time in nature, and that you're not putting a lot of pressure on yourself to do all these things to change your life, that it's the tiny changes that we make, it's the little changes that shift our life in profound ways. So just doing exercises like this can be exhausting and overwhelming, and we just want to make tiny little changes, and that can have a big impact on your life. So if you have any thoughts, ideas, questions for us, you are welcome to contact HelpNet, which is your employee assistance program. Check us out online. My email address is cokerc@bronsonhg.org if you have questions specific to this webinar. I thank you so much for being with us today. I hope that if you do have some summer to enjoy, you really get some rest and some support this summer. I thank you so much for everything you do for our students, our families, and our communities. You are seen and you are valued, and we care so much about your well-being. So thank you again for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you again.